You are listening to River West Radio on WXR WLP 104.1 FM Milwaukee. Support for this program comes from Collectivo Coffee and Troubadour Bakery, makers of artisan breads and scratch-baked goodies. Visitors to Collectivo's Bayview Cafe can look in on Troubadour Bakers as they prepare breads and cafe favorites daily. More info is at collectivocoffee.com. Do you want to support your community radio station? Here's your chance. From now until December 30th, River West Radio is participating in a nationwide fundraising effort for community broadcasters called Give Big to My Station. Your tax-deductible gift will help River West Radio continue to provide a platform for alternative and marginalized voices. Go to riverwestradio.com and click Give Big to My Station to make a one-time donation. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Cinema Fireside. Andy Noble has left the house, and he was a guest on Suki's fine show. And Suki, I hope you're doing well. She is opposite me at the station, definitely. And I hope everyone is doing good tonight. If you're listening live, it is a moderately temperatured Milwaukee evening. It is certainly dark out. We're in the northern hemisphere. Tilting into the dark realm of the universe and away from the sun, thus winter. That means also Christmas is on its way 1 week from now. So that means Christmas films, Christmas reading, Christmas radio dramas. So on Sunday morning, they had an episode of Suspense on Suspense was broadcast from 1942 until 1962. There were over 900 episodes, and it starred many, many, many top Hollywood luminaries, and there are many outstanding episodes, and some are of the more famous are Orson Welles' The Hitchhiker, and a one based on a short play by Lucille Fletcher, and that is Sorry Wrong Number. Actually, I had the great opportunity to read that as well. But this Sunday morning, it was an episode of Suspense entitled Back for Christmas. And when I was listening to it, I realized, man, this really sounds familiar. And I realized it was also an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which I had seen. And then I realized, hey, I'm reading this book every Christmas. I bring it out. And it's called Murder for Christmas, and right there I see by John Collier is Back for Christmas. So I also had read that short story. So Back for Christmas, radio drama, episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and short story by John Collier. So great stuff. What a stunning coincidence. So recently, for the holiday, I checked out Christmas in Connecticut, which is one of those cozy ensembles of shenanigans and misunderstanding and so on and so forth. Great film from Hollywood's golden era, Connecticut and Christmas. I also have White Christmas on the docket. It's a few hours long, and I have trouble staying awake at night watching films. So I have to be starting that one a little bit early. So what I did do is, because things just ain't like they used to be. No. So anyway, no, they certainly are not. But it's all interesting. It's all makes things a lot simpler. And that is the consequence of the vicissitudes of life. Lots of unexpected things can happen, and when they settle, there is simplicity and clarity. And Gabe, too, thank you for hanging on there. So anyway, so I was not in the mood for anything deep at that point. So, well, this may have been prior to that, who knows. But I put on Elmore Leonard's Get Shorty. I had seen it before, and that is what's called Good Hollywood. Stars John Travolta, and it also has Danny DeVito, and it is just a great Hollywood film with tough talk, clever repartee, and continually flowing plot line. Films can either be written with a complex and well-crafted tapestry, or they can be just existential and episodic. Good Hollywood films provide a wealth of setups and payoffs, and that means that you set maybe even just a saying up, and it gets responded a scene or two later. In fact, I just seen The Green Room, I think it was last night, and the very last line is a payoff to a setup about what's your desert island pick for favorite group, and that then becomes like among the last line in the film. So that would be a set up and a payoff. So I don't get into blood, guns, violence, or anything like that. I mean, The Green Room was very well done. It had that operatic quality of predestiny to it, but it was basically a chase film for the entirety of the film itself. After obviously the opening, and I do not do chase films well. I do not do wandering around from room to room in the dark very well. It's just not my style. If I never see films like that again, so much the better. But no, The Green Room was an exceptionally well-made film, and so yes, I would recommend it to those who would find its genre appealing. And so anyway, Christmas in Connecticut, very cozy film that I probably revisit in a few years. Get Shorty. If you haven't seen it, if you're into Hollywood writing, tight, clever dialogue exchanges and so forth, and tough guys, tough characters, tough circumstances, definitely check out Get Shorty. And also it's kind of like brother film is Be Cool. Get Shorty concerns the film industry, and Be Cool the music industry. I think I saw Be Cool as well. I know I rented the book from the library, so I've yet to read that because there's many books to catch up on, or not catch up on, just to indulge. And actually, Woody Allen has a short story in Murder for Christmas here, which I read, Mr. Big, and Arthur Conan Doyle weighs in with Sherlock Holmes adventure. It's the adventure of the Blue Carbuncle, which I've read before and in this book. And it's also probably time to finish off the fifth and final collection of Sherlock Holmes stories. They're good for November, December, and general winter reading. So there's 5 short story collections along with 4 novels. Let's see, Hound of the Baskervilles, A Study in Scarlet, Valley of Fear, Sign of 4. So anyway, what else do we have here? So play-wise, I'm reading Chekhov's Uncle Vanya. I've read The Seagull, and I've read The Cherry Orchard. After Uncle Vanya will be Three Sisters, and I am reading Ingmar Bergman's interpretation of A Doll's House. His is entitled Nora. What's interesting about Bergman, and we have to keep in mind that this is all translations, of course, so you've never really read great works that have been in different languages. You've just read interpretations of them, and that's it. The translation is nothing literal. So you have to always keep that in mind. It is the translator's interpretation of that. But the interesting thing about Bergman and what he had done with Nora and Julie and Scenes from a Marriage in play form was that he stripped things down to their bare essential, cast aside any unnecessary digressions, and did what you generally are told not to do, and that's right on the nose, which he does. And that on the nose writing, sometimes I'll take it any day over quote unquote good writing, because just to have that clarity and immediacy of thought and exchange presented to you is so simply refreshing, instead of all this digressive subtextual tapestry that just can drive a person mad after a while. So thank you very much, Mr. Bergman, for doing this stuff on the nose. Just, man, breath of fresh air. There is no doubt about it. And speaking of which, so I'm getting done with this Bergman Theater Project film, and I know that the authors have another one on his 40-year, or approximately 4-decade stretch into theater, so I'm going to be thinking about that one. But also, I've got another Bergman book floating around the office on basically encompasses the entirety of his interests in drama, including film, theater, and radio. So I'll have to find that book, and when I'm done with this one, go into that one, because winter is definitely a time for researching and indulging the world of Ingmar Bergman. Gabe, I want to get to you in a minute here, figurative minute, so that means 2 to 3. Love working in coffee shops. I do writing with people. That is meaningful to both of us, each party, each one deriving definitely a different meaning from those sessions, but there's definitely camaraderie in that, which I appreciate. I'd go bonkers talking. I'm a very specific person in a very general world, and I'd go bonkers with everyday talk. So it's good to be working, putting bread on the table, and still having companionship at the same time. But to sit around idly facing some person talking about general information, that's not going to happen. There's never a reason. Hey, let's get a cup of coffee and catch up. Catch up with what? What possibly could we have in common? It's nothing. The big zero. Again, when one has very specific interests, the general just doesn't cut it. Gabe, welcome to your world, my man.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
It is really good to hear you.
Absolutely. So yeah, you brought up Get Shorty, Green Room. These are both respectively excellent Hollywood films. Green Room is not a Hollywood film in the sense of this really disposable Hollywood product where it just absolutely has no signature, no purpose, no point, even the people watching it are aware of this, and they just sort of take it at face value and don't care that what they're watching is bad. Green Room, which came out, I believe, about 2 years ago, has a really loud sense of form and style. It's definitely a punk rock film, as it's about literal punk rockers, and deals with for just simple plot mechanics. The film details a group of traveling gutter punks who have a van and have about $15 to their name, can barely pay the gas, and they're traveling from show to show around the Pacific Northwest, and start to get into more rural areas and play a show at a skinhead bar where there's like punk and metal shows on a regular basis, and they play a particular song by the Dead Kennedys that has a very famous set of lyrics and has a very famous title that's directly pointed at Nazi punks. Anyone who's familiar with the Dead Kennedys or familiar with that song knows exactly the lyric and exactly the song I'm talking about. And, not the smartest move on their hands, but sometimes punk rockers and people with that sort of extreme sensibility, there's something really brave and something really, really awesome and really something really noble and also is really stupid about that kind of brashness. So it's super cool to see a film sort of realistic, in a Hollywood sense, realistically depict a punk rock band sort of just striving to get by, but also, conforming to modern and contemporary society. They have cell phones, they have, modern technology. They don't live in some fantasy world of some vegan fantasy world paradise in their head that's not possible. They live in the real world and understand what it takes to get from city to city. And the chase of the film, the suspense of the film, the action of the film that Mark is referring to, that does get a little, in some sense, films like that are just constant climax, constant action, constant tension, where it's just going forward, chugging. There's films that can do that in the figurative sense, where it's the character's perspective over a long period of time gets so razor tight that you're drawn into the web of paranoia. Or with Hitchcock, he had that tight web where he would bring you in, involving multiple perspectives, but what he would withhold and what he would share and then also in sequences where he would use just the dynamics of filmmaking, where you would have editing, music, composition, form, lighting, the mechanics of sight and sound would create these tense sequences. But in many of his films, the tension continues long after and long before the what I would call like the action set piece or the set pieces, where there's literal action or violence or chasing in that sense. So when you have a literal chase, when you have a literal conflict between characters, like that physical conflict, to keep that tension interesting, psychological, or involving is challenging, and that is where Green Room suffers a little bit, in that it pulls you into the characters right away. It doesn't spend too much time with exposition on any of them, but you know just enough to create an individual portrait of who each character is, what's important to them, what isn't important to them, what the differences are in the dynamic of a band, and also in terms of the dynamic of what a band is in a movie. Because a depiction of a band in a documentary versus a depiction of a band in a film, a fictional film, is so different, because these are fictional films. So when a fictional film can portray a realistic and captivating portrait of a band as a band can really be, or as a band was in a certain time period, that is just super cool. So that portrait of realism, but also of making it captivating in the fictional sense, Green Room really succeeds in that first part. And what Mark said about connecting those dots, where you bait and then you catch it. That creates a much more involving sense of audience participation in the film when you set the bait, and there's little motifs, little components of the characters' personalities, or little questions, little snippets of dialogue, unanswered questions in the literal sense, and then later on in a very irreverent sense, after all this chaos and all this action and all this other stuff, the question gets answered. That's a great device that I think it's a little thin, but it always works, because that makes the audience feel like they're part of the film. When there's something it makes the audience member feel like there's something that they noticed that wasn't necessarily important to the plot or to the larger sense of the mechanics of the film, but was interesting, what was something that feels small and intimate, but is in fact a core component of what the film is all about. Making an audience member feel like they've noticed something, or making them feel like they're a part of that film, like they're a part of those moments, like they're a part of this real dynamic, where that separation between the audience and the film kind of blurs, where there's that intimacy, where there's that almost like homogenous feeling. That's a great, those are great moments. And oftentimes I've noticed that I've had those feelings with films that are not of the highest caliber. I have those more with, I would say, like above average films that aren't quite masterworks. They're not the best films of the year, but they have really strong Hollywood qualities. That line blurring and becoming invisible. Hollywood films are really good at dissolving that for moments. And then obviously works of masterful art, a lot of times they are such pronounced works of art that the line between the obviousness of the fact that you're watching a film is the whole point. Like, they are works of editing, they are works of theater, these are works of film by serious filmmakers. And that line isn't supposed to be blurred. That emotional connection is not oftentimes what works of art are about. They're not about connecting with large groups of people that don't care about whether a film is artistically valid or not, or whether that film is making some grand artistic statement. Most people don't watch movies because of that. So, when a movie can connect with an audience that doesn't care about art, that itself is a moment of art in a very different sense. So people definitely take part in art and experience art in their lives all the time through films, whether they want to or realize it or not.
That's right,
film,
Gabe.
You know.
So my man,
mainstream.
yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Green Room works on those levels where it's very involving on a very common level. Green Room is a very exciting film. I think it's an above-average horror film. It's an above-average action film. You know, it has another great performance by Patrick Stewart. And the fact that Patrick Stewart is the villain, and he's a great villain, he's a neo-Nazi, and it's just startling to hear some of the language in the film coming from Patrick Stewart, he's just so convincing in the role, and he plays it so hard and so well. I was left with many impressions from the film, but you're right, Mark. One of them was not originality or of great contribution to the humanities or the arts. But I'm glad you pointed that out too, because I've thought about that film, you know, many times, and people bring that movie up frequently. You know, coworkers, people I run into, people I know, and it always leaves a positive impression with people. But it's not a film you hear people say like, this was the best film of the year. You know, this was one of the best films of the year. It's definitely a genre film, but it's highly recommended nonetheless. And Get Shorty, Mark, your take on that could not be more accurate. That is one of the great films of the 1990s. That's the other film that put John Travolta back on the map as a serious Hollywood actor and as a serious actor and presence in any era of any time period. John Travolta had, you know, risen to fame in the late 70s, and his career had fizzled out by the time Staying Alive came out in 1984, and Perfect with Jamie Lee Curtis had come out in 1985. He had already become a washed-up joke. His career was basically considered over. But he'd had a good run for about 4 or 5 years where he was considered a serious actor after the years of Welcome Back, Kotter and of Saturday Night Fever, which was as cartoony as that movie is nowadays. It's a well-made film that's well-written, first and foremost, and it's an interesting portrait of New York in 1976 and 1977. And it's also an interesting coming-of-age story that's told in a different way than the average coming-of-age story, in that his character is not a teenager. He's a grown man who still mostly lives at home like a teenager. But he has this dynamic nightlife in this dying city of New York. Its depiction of New York was extremely unflattering but extremely accurate and romantic. And its depiction of New York nightlife as sort of this action, as this place of neon lights and of literal action was really something that had not been done in cinema before. But the way that they went all in on it with the soundtrack, with the set design, the clothing, the lighting, the costume, everything about that film is full out. But everything about the intent of that film is very small. And this is before independent films as we know them exist. But the intimacy of everything else in the film outside of the nightclubs is shot with this sort of cinema verite immediacy. So I give Saturday Night Fever 2 big thumbs up for authenticity and that big, dumb, bloated Hollywood go-for-it sensibility. It works on both levels.
Gabe, check this
Yep.
out. It was in the New York Times on, I believe, on either Friday or Saturday. It was the 40th anniversary of Saturday Night Live, and they recreated, I believe, on the exact location, the 2001 Odyssey Disco Club for $200,000 just for that night to celebrate that. So I just want to throw that in there, my man, and that was just probably a week or so ago.
Wow. You know, and that is one of the great... There's a sequence in Saturday Night Fever that encapsulates John Travolta in the echelon of film history, The sequence when Travolta goes all out and he dances, it's the second dance sequence in the film. There is something so magical and so awesome and so dynamic about the way that Travolta dances and his presence it's one of the great sequences in film history. It's one of the great dance sequences in film history. And, I mean, so much about that film. Mark, we've talked about it in private and on the show about films from the 70s as these sort of as these extreme time capsules.
Mm-hmm.
The clothing, the set designs, the colors, the furniture, independent films and mainstream films. Because a lot of times mainstream films would give the illusion that things were shot on location when they were shot on these really elaborate, really brightly lit sets with loud furniture and loud carpeting and these really extreme suits, and everything is played straight. Like everything is just, no, this is the way we dress. This is how we decorate our home. These are the kind of cars we drive. This is the way we talk. This is the way we do our hair. That kind of stuff is just, I'd say about 1998, 1999 is when people, by and large, when films started to tone down the presence of the time period, when there's sort of this factor of more invisibility starts to come into films, this normalcy factor of everyone just dress normal. Everything sort of look muted and sort of in the same way, where there's less of a presence of, less obvious that this is from this year of this decade. I'd say 98, 99 is definitely when that becomes a standard component of movies. Credit sequences, too, start to disappear in 99, about 2000. And by and large, today in films, credit sequences are non-existent in the beginning of films. And even something like a so-and-so production, a so-and-so film, maybe a few names that pop up, even that, a limited credit sequence, is mostly absent from most films. And a credit sequence oftentimes is a dead giveaway of what period a film is from or what era a film is from. But now that we don't have those, that is one less dead giveaway of a period in which a film is made. But yeah, Mark, Get Shorty, man. Like I've always had a thing for John Travolta as an actor. I don't know what it is. John Travolta and Tom Cruise, I buy it. I totally buy both of them.
Yeah, I dig both those guys.
I just do. John Travolta in Get Shorty and in Pulp Fiction, 94 and 95 respectively. I don't know that there is a more interesting comeback in film history than those two films being paired within that 2-year period. Because not only are both films so significant to, when you look back at the films of the 90s, the great films of the 90s, the favorite films of the 90s, both those films are definitive films of the 1990s for different reasons. But Travolta plays such completely different opposite characters in both those films, but is still at the same time so completely and uniquely John Travolta. That's one thing about both those actors that's so often criticized, but I think is actually a strength, is that you never escape the paradigm of the fact that you're watching this actor. That's part of the reason that Tom Cruise sometimes has had trouble being cast in roles outside of the Tom Cruise character, is that you're always aware that you're watching Tom Cruise. You're always aware you're watching John Travolta. But I don't think that that's necessarily a hindrance. But they've both made some very questionable films. But, man, Get Shorty, the dialogue in that film, some of those sequences with between him and Gene Hackman, and Rene Russo to some extent, but really the great sequences in that film are him dealing with Gene Hackman.
Right. I can't. You know what? I'll have to search the library for the book. So, like I said, I got Be Cool, but I'm reading so much. It's like, I got to remind myself, man, get to it.
Yep.
So that'll be done, my man.
Yeah, it will be, Mark. I mean, it's Elmore Leonard. That's not like some dime store, throwaway novel. That's good stuff, and it's worth reading, and you will read it.
Oh, absolutely, my man.
That's good stuff. Like there's so many writers that would love and try to do what Elmore Leonard does, and it's just like instantly, you watch a movie or you see a show or something comes across, even a piece of writing, and you're like, oh, this person is obsessed with Elmore Leonard. They're trying to do Elmore Leonard, And it's when someone can get close, when someone gets within the range of Elmore Leonard, I'd actually rather that they didn't, because it feels like you're hacking at something that should have just been left alone. Like the ham is now sitting on your plate in chunks instead of nice slices. And it still tastes like ham. The meat is still going to taste the same. But food is, in fact, influenced by the way that it looks, by the sound that's present in the room. Food tastes different depending on what music and what noise is present in the room, and your reaction to it changes too. This isn't my opinion. These are literal scientific facts. People behave differently with certain types of sensations, foods, and flavors depending on the atmosphere that's around them and the way that it looks.
Right.
A food, so a movie like Hell or High Water, Taylor Sheridan is a very fine, very well-meaning filmmaker and writer, but I can't shake the feeling. I've seen that movie twice now. Both times I couldn't shake the feeling that I've not only seen the film done better, but that I've already seen the film itself. Mostly because No Country for Old Men, as well as several other contemporary bank robber revisionist Western films, literally did the same thing that film did, if not as well. And that's where I think To Hell and High Water gets away with being nominated for Best Picture, because it has a certain prestige and it has a finish to it. It's more like a wine than a bottle of warm beer. And there's a lot of finesse to that film, but it still has a bitter aftertaste for me. And it constantly reminds me that it's a movie. Every second of that film, as good as it is, and it gives me what I want. It's got machine guns. It's got the American. It's got Texas looking like modern day rugged outlaw Texas. It's got bank robberies. It's got Jeff Bridges doing the Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, are you talking about From Hell and High Water?
High Water, yes.
Yeah, that's a great film, my man.
It's got all the components of one. The experience of it was, the only thing I couldn't shake was the fact that it was obsessed with Elmore Leonard, but it was not Elmore Leonard. Not that that's anything to really criticize, but the fact that it is so blatantly copying something that is superior to it without leaving an original mark, that's what bothered me about it. And it shouldn't bother me, but it's just that it didn't leave a distinct smell, and it had a bitter aftertaste. And as my friend Michael Collins has pointed out, this this is a movie that's constantly reminded me what a movie-ass movie it is. And I have to agree with him on that one. I have watched it twice, though. It's a great action film. It's got some great acting in it. I love Chris Pine. I love Ben Foster. Jeff Bridges is one of my favorite actors. And I love the way that Taylor Sheridan, the writer and the writer, plays around with genre and loves things that used to be considered genre films: westerns, horror films, action films, procedurals. His newest film, Wind River, which came out earlier in this year, I talked high praise about on the show. But that's also another movie that's very aware of the fact that makes the audience very aware of the fact that it's a movie. It deals with some social subjects that are like, it deals with rape, it deals with racism, it deals with the loss of a child. It deals with some very real things, but it constantly is reminding you that it's a movie. It's very intimate, but it's very possessive of its intimacy. But very good nonetheless. It's on my best of the year list, which usually includes about 23, on average, 23 films, sometimes 27 by the end of the year. But, excuse me, speaking of that, once again, Netflix has shown that television and miniseries and the such is in some ways more attractive and more of a lure in terms of the full-bodied way, in terms of the full range of storytelling, visual storytelling, than a 2-hour feature can be. And Errol Morris is doing a new mini series on Netflix called Wormwood, which I have not watched yet. But it's about the MK Ultra program that the CIA conducted, the LSD experiments during the 50s and 60s, and its famous lasting effects, and its casualties, literal and figurative, and its long range.
Yeah, my man, that is something, 'cause I've always been fascinated with the Harvard prison experiment. There's been at least 2 films out on that, fiction films, both and not very good. And then Annie Jacobson, who wrote Area 51, has come out with a book on government experiments in the mid-20th century. So what you're talking about rings true, Gabe, my man.
I read that book by Annie Jacobson.
Which one?
And Area 51.
I'm still in that. It's a summer read, so I'm taking my years with it.
If you picked that up from the bin of books that I left at River West Film and Video 2 summers ago, then that is my copy, sir.
Actually, I got it new, but it breaks my heart that you would have done that, and it's gone unheralded until now. But bless your heart, Gabe.
It's a great book. Well, I got rid of about 95% of my books about 2 years ago when I moved back to Milwaukee. I just said, nope, I'm not lugging this stuff around anymore. All these books, I've already read these books. I'm not doing it. I'm not carrying this. I'm not carrying my past around with me for no reason anymore. And I did a second
make
wave
that
of
past
it again.
work for you, my man. That's what I do. Let it be a reminder of what never to fall back on.
Well, they're books, and other people can enjoy them now too. Which was
I'm talking about the bigger
best.
picture, the metaphor.
Oh, the past, Mark, I think about the past way too much.
Thank you. We're both in the same, we share the same company.
Oh, man, no. That's why getting rid of the physical reminders of the past is not a problem. And for a long time, that's where hoarding comes from, is that line between the inability to discern between pain and pleasure.
Oh, my.
And that's where hoarding can become a real problem, is that everything holds a weight.
Yes.
Everything holds a memory. Everything holds something important.
Now you're talking.
And those, and that can be real pleasurable, and that can also be real painful.
Right.
But it can, creating a distinction between the two is where, where I've found the ability to start letting go of stuff that I was taking around with me, both figuratively and literally. And I'll tell you, man, when some of those painful memories come up, they hurt. But I can tell myself, like, this is just a painful memory. And you know what? I did that thing. That thing happened to me. Or, wow, that was a really awkward scenario. But you know what? That's not where I'm at today. And but, it still stings. Some of that stuff, it doesn't. You're right, Mark. The past doesn't go away. We shouldn't forget the past.
You'd be a fool to.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like you said, man, it's like, even if I tried, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. My memories are such a thorough, fierce part of my psyche and my mind and my sensibilities of what I do every minute of the day is informed and created by what I've done and what's happened to me and where I've gone and what's the effect that my interactions with other people, most specifically, the weight that has, for better and for worse. Thinking about the past and the future is very important. It's what creates a distinction between us and animals and idiots. But at the same time, there's also something very important about just paying attention to what you're doing when you're doing it, which, if you're not, that is in some ways the definition of a fool. So
well, you got to
who's
split
the smarter
difference,
guy?
my man.
So in some ways, who's the smarter person? The person who's very aware of the past and the future, and bases his or her life completely around the notion of the already happened, or the potentially unhappened, or the person who only lives in the present and doesn't have doesn't care about the past, doesn't plan for the future, there really is no distinction. There's no way to measure who's smarter or who's not.
Who cares?
Well, who cares? But it's very important to do both, you know.
Right, man. I'll live whatever way I choose, man. So I don't have the only, you know, I'm the boardroom dude. I'm at the head of it, and I'm all the dudes sitting around the table. So I'm the dude who makes the decisions. There you have it, Gabe.
Yeah, well, absolutely, Mark, and no one would tell you otherwise. But you know, that's plenty. I mean, no one I don't think is going to fight you on that one.
Gabe, it's Christmas, my man. What have you done? What have you done? What have you watched? How? Tell us how you.
I finished my Christmas shopping yesterday.
Yeah.
Which, was that good? You know, going out and shopping and being around all this chaos and all these parking lots and all these cars and all these jam-packed stores and feeling all the psychic energy, good, bad, positive, negative, lovely, funny, ugly, nasty. The holidays are just such an intense period of commerce and of social interaction in this country. So it's always really, really interesting to get out there. I don't like doing it, but you know, I like getting presents for who, you know, the people I get presents for. And this year, my family really stepped back, and we all decided we're not going to do as many presents as we normally do, which was great. And you know, getting that done, that was like a movie in itself. But man, I've really got some good movies in. You know, like this. I'm really looking forward to Errol Morris's miniseries about the MK Ultra. Spike Lee has an updated miniseries version of She's Gotta Have It that's on Netflix, 10 episodes. I'm going to watch that as soon as I can. He was actually on Fresh Air a few weeks ago. And
that was a great interview, my man.
Yep. I mean, Spike Lee said it. He's like, no one interfered with my filmmaking process. No one told me that I couldn't make the film that I wanted to make. And I got to make the film that I wanted to make back in 1986. And now I got to do it. I got to make this, you know, I got to make like 5 films, and no one interfered. No producer showed up and was like, you can't do that, or you can't do this, or we're not going to do this. He's like, I made the film I wanted to make. And he didn't go on and on about it. He just was like, yeah, it was cool. I got to make the film I wanted to make. That was really interesting. Like, you know, that's not something that, and that's why more and more filmmakers are running to Netflix to be like, that, like, oh my God, this is actually happening. They're letting me make the film I want to make. And Godless is another miniseries I'm really looking forward to seeing. Also, the creator behind that Western series was on Fresh Air about 3 weeks ago and talked with Terry at length about creating the Western the film that he'd always wanted to make. And then he turned it into a TV show because there was just a miniseries because there was just more and more content. And but that stuff can be overwhelming. It's just a lot of content. And, you know, I do prefer movies over TV shows because I'm in, I'm out. What have you got to say? 2 hours? 2 hours of my time, I can do that. 10 hours of my time, and yes, it's like a long film. Most of these TV shows are shot and made with the discernment and artistic credentials of films, because the technology has changed and the tools for making these films have changed. That line between TV show and movies is blurred. They look identical. They're made identically. A lot of this stuff is just, quality of TV shows is ridiculous. The storytelling that's going on in a lot of these shows, and you know, even David Thompson, the stickler and the snob of snobs, has even come out and said numerous times, he says it all the time, that TV has left have left films and plays in the dust. That is where contemporary storytelling culture is thriving more than anywhere else, is in miniseries and television. And to hear someone like him, who is the old guard, that is the cranky old man who is normally impossible to turn. To hear him say that was like when I decided, when I had read that he had said that in print and in interview. I think the second time I had come across that, I was like, okay, okay, I'll give some of these shows a shot. And I'll tell you, I'm really glad I did, because I'm seeing better filmmaking, and I'm seeing more memorable filmmaking and better films and better stories and characters and writing in a lot of these shows and miniseries than I am in film. But the artistic film festival films that are now coming into wider release now that we're near the end of the year, man, I've been watching some good stuff. Brawl in Cell Block 99, which A.O. Scott gave it his critics pick about 3 months ago. Man, was he right. One of the best action films I've seen in years, a brilliant, brilliant genre film. Vince Vaughn in top form. I've never liked Vince Vaughn. I've never been a fan of his acting style. I've never been a fan of Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn carries this film. You can't take your eyes off him. You can't believe what he's doing in the film. This is the genre film of genre films that I've been waiting for. This is the prison action film. This is the crime underworld film that I've been waiting for years. It's 2 hours and almost 10 minutes long, and it flows. It just flows. There's just it never lost me for 1 second. One of the best films of the year.
Oh my! Should I be checking it out, Gabe?
Mark, I think you'd really like Brawl in Cell Block 99. Great screenplay, great presence, great filmmaking. Doesn't play around. It's not pretentious. This is machismo filmmaking at its best, and it doesn't insult its audience for 1 second. I can't recommend Brawl in Cell Block 99 enough. Mudbound on Netflix, the new film by Lee Daniels, is also one of the best films of the year. What can I say? Jason Clarke is one of our best actors working in contemporary cinema. It's about sharecroppers that are on two farms in Mississippi just during and after World War II. And it looks at the dividing line between race, gender, status, class, and it's what happens to be a coincidence is the fact that it's made with many of the same parallels of perspective between those two lines that The Great Gatsby has in the novel, not in the film. But the way that those lines, those invisible and very literal lines between status, wealth, class, gender, and race, and that the humanism, the human factor beneath those things, what separates these people in terms of access, status, the discernment, the availability of resources, and because this takes place in a different era, the availability of medicine, of healthcare resources, of basic necessities, of location where they live and how they live is very different just because of the color of their skin. It takes place in Mississippi, and it doesn't flaunt its politics for 1 second. It's made by a woman who I would have thought going into this film, who is very politically not outspoken, but is very loud with her politics and very loud with her stance and her identity. She's very loud about her identity, and I haven't always agreed with some of the statements that she's made. But this film could not be more tactful, tasteful, direct, and honestly, just powerful. There's scenes of such small intimacies between unlikely characters that you don't see joining up, that you don't predict becoming the friends that they become. There's alliances, there's small moments of it's got the intimacy of a great play. It's got the filmmaking of a big Hollywood epic at times. It alternates between battle scenes in World War II that are not shot in the typical battlefield way. They choose these human perspectives of in the cockpit. They don't ever show them going through the usual motions of montage that most war films do. They pick their perspectives, they pick their scenes very carefully, and oftentimes the expository scene will only be for about 20 seconds, if that. And everything is set up with the candor and all the fixings of a big budget Hollywood film, just for these moments of quiet reflection or of just really quiet acting. It's not loud, boisterous, over-the-top performances that dominate a lot of these more serious award contender Hollywood films, especially films dealing with race, gender, and all these very contemporary, very timely topics that are dominating the news cycle. To see a film that uses restraint more than bombast is always refreshing, especially with timely political topics that can be very, very sharp dividing line between people, whether it was 60 years ago, 70 years ago, or it's still happening today in terms of most of our country. Whatever side anyone picks on it, the human factor is something we all relate to. So
here's something I relate to, Gabe. What Christmas films are you going to think about checking out this year?
I usually don't check out too many Christmas films that have to do with Christmas. But
inspired by, my man, or just
if I do, Die Hard is always my favorite.
Okay, I
understand. Totally honest. I love the Christmas spirit that flows through Die Hard. Tangerine is probably my other favorite film that takes place around Christmas.
Great film.
Tangerine is a masterwork of independent cinema. There's a lot of images in that film that just are very true and are very resonant and come from a place of poverty and of desperation that whether I've experienced them firsthand, I can relate to the feeling. I can relate to the ethos of a lot of things that those characters go through in that film.
One thing I want to point out, first of all, I've seen that film a couple times, and yes, it does take place within the realm of Christmas time. Orson Welles did Christmas carols several times, radio dramas, so that's something I think should be playing next week on one of our fine radio stations, Orson Welles' production of A Christmas Carol.
Mark, that sounds fantastic. Anything Orson Welles got his hands on throughout his lifetime is worth checking out, in my opinion. I know you've always been a diehard fan, and you've
sir, yes, sir.
Orson Welles just has a certain magic and a certain ethos around the things that he was associated with, radio, television, film. It can't be understated how magnificent a creation and a character that guy was. And movies like The Magnificent Ambersons, both versions of the film, Citizen Kane, obviously, which, considering what a weighty topic and what a weighty work of art Citizen Kane is, it comes up on the show very infrequently nowadays, for whatever reason. Wells left his mark on a lot of stuff, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Mark. I'm going to check out, if I can find it on YouTube or on another immediate means that's not on AM, I will listen to a version of Orson Welles' A Christmas Carol, because that is actually something I like. That is something that I like to do every year. I'm glad you reminded me.
Nice.
I like to check out a different version of A Christmas Carol every Christmas. A version that I've never seen before. So I still have, this year, what I was going to begrudgingly settle on was Robert Zemeckis' motion capture CGI film from, I think it was 2010 or something like that. It was either the late 2000s or the early 2010s, that was made with Jim Carrey, and it was by and large critically panned, but I read 2 or 3 reviews that gave it 4-star reviews by 3 of my 10 favorite critics, but I never saw it, so I was going to settle on that one for this year. But I think your version, the one that you've just described, is going to hold weight. A Christmas Carol is one of the most often made and retold and refilmed at film and television adaptations of Western civilization. It's been made it's been made into countless TV movies. I think it's made almost up until recently, with the demise, for the most part, the demise of the made-for-TV movie, with the demise of broadcast television to a large degree. A Christmas Carol was a tradition, it was on television this year. I think it was yesterday or the day before they did a live version. I think on ABC or NBC, they did a live version of the play on television. So I take that back. They did do a Christmas Carol on television this year. So yeah, that's still something that even in the age of dwindling profitability from, like having these large amounts of product on basic television and basic cable, that's still something that holds up for the American public. That's something about that really warms my heart. Because The Christmas Carol is a great story. It's a great play. It's a great film, and it's still worth watching. It's still worth being told. It's still it's a timeless classic both for children and for adults. So Mark, I am looking forward to Orson Welles' version of that.
Good man, Gabe. Yeah, you got about a week to go to fit all of this in, all your reading, radio dramas, and films, and I want to just offer you good luck on that. So I think what we'll do is this, Gabe, is we're gonna just offer you just a great Christmas, man. What do you think?
Likewise, Mark, I'm offering you the same, and I'm telling our listeners, please have yourself a great Christmas. Have a great Christmas Eve. Have a great New Year's. We'll see you before New Year's, but please be safe. Take care of yourself. Don't drink too much. Don't eat too much. Spend time with the people that you want to spend time with. Spend time with good people and do good. And I'll tell you, just stay away from those arguments. They come up. There's invitations to them. Just keep the spirits high. Just stay well and stay good, and just do your best. I guess that's all I got.
Okay, that packs a wallop. Gabe, bless your heart, and we will talk to you shortly. And have a great Christmas, Gabe.
Thanks, Mark. You too. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. All right, Gabe Van Handel, great guy. He helms this radio show with me, and we've got it's like I say, man. There's no time to waste in this life. Just invest in yourself. Follow your visions. Don't let no one tell you like it is. Just let yourself tell you like it is, man, because you're the only one who knows, and that's for sure. We will be on at the same time next week on WXR WLP 104.1 FM Milwaukee. To hear past episodes, visit riverwestradio.com/shows and click Cinema Fireside.